good morning, good evening, and wherever you are, a very big warm welcome to Daily EPL Talk. The Saudi takeover of Newcastle United is set to be approved after the Gulf state settled its privacy dispute with Premier League broadcast partners beIN Sports. Hello, my name is Prashant, and I am from Premier League Museum, and today we are going to give you a very comprehensive guide to this entire saga of Saudi Arabia takeover. Not only will we talk about what were the challenges faced, but also what lies ahead for the club. And also, was Mike Ashley a bad owner? We'll talk about that. Exactly what were the problems that occurred, as well as what were the challenges, and why Newcastle? Why not any other club? Why suddenly Newcastle brought so much interest, and why Saudis want to take over? So there's many things to talk about. This, I promise you, will be your most comprehensive guide towards this takeover. So let's get started. So when I got up today morning, I'm in United States, and when I got up and the kind of memes that came up on Twitter, which made me think, what's going on with Newcastle fans today? And this is what came up. Yep, this is what you get to see on Twitter today. Newcastle on the brink of becoming one of the most powerful football operations on the planet. Yes, and there is a reason why it's being said. Just look at this. If this Saudi takeover does happen successfully, just imagine 320 billion that will be available for Newcastle as a club versus Man City's 23.2 billion owner. Absolutely no, 10 times, more than 10 times. Imagine how much wealth will be exposed to Newcastle United. Will it be? Will it not be? That obviously we will talk about in some time. But this is definitely very exciting time if you are a Geordie. So let's get ahead. Let's actually talk about the actual takeover. It's getting approved because they have solved all the roadblocks that were existing. So exactly what can we expect? First, let's talk about Newcastle. Why exactly Newcastle? Why is it that, what exactly is it in Newcastle? Well, it's near top of the list when people talk about sleeping giants in football. Yes, the sleeping giants. They fall into the category where they have not really dominated in England, but they are just a step away from that domination or step up from winning that title. Nobody can deny that Toon Army is the best in England in terms of the fan following. And whether the club is down or up, they are die-hard fans. They will always bring the same enthusiasm when they come to the football match for their team at St. James Park, or Sports Arena as we call it. The best part is, who can still think of the 90s? Well, in the 90s, if it wasn't for Sir Alex Ferguson's genius and Kevin Keegan's rant, probably Newcastle United would have got the maiden title in English Premier League much before Liverpool actually were contenders even. And St. James Park is the 54th biggest stadium in Europe, which is even more impressive when you consider that many grounds above them are rugby stadiums. National grounds are only used for Olympics. So think about it. This stadium, which I visited personally, which is now actually 4 or 5 years back, and that's the picture that you see behind, is not something which has been taken from any kind of website. It's actually my own personal picture, which I have listed and behind me in the background. And what the studies have shown is that Newcastle is the most supported club in English football, with the London clubs, Liverpool and Manchester outfits only boasting the similar kind of support global. So despite the fact that they haven't won, they have been relegated twice, they are still one of the most they have the biggest fan followings outside of England, even globally. Now these have been very attractive points for Newcastle, as well as for Mike Ashley to sell the club. Newcastle as a city, it is one of the biggest and the most vibrant cities in UK. I personally witnessed it, and I loved being at that place. And time may not be the immediate list for football tourism at the moment, but definitely it has a football culture. The stadium is right in the city, and it's one of the beautiful places to be in when you are actually visiting on the north. Now let's come to Mike Ashley. So yes, some of you might remember this face with the beer mug drinking guy. Yep, that's what he did, and that's the kind of reputation that he got. So what really happened? Well, There was a time when in England, and European football was very common at Magpies. Who would remember that they were inside the top six for the first 4 seasons of the Premier League? Yes, they were in the top six, and they were also near, like I said, they were near the champions, and they were almost always in the European competitions. And then the decline happened in 97 2000 when Kevin Keegan resigned. But good times again came back with Brian Robson. Yes, the legendary Brian Robson, who came back and along with Alan Shearer really revived them between 2001 and 2004. And they actually managed to get a few European spots in between that time and finishes which were in top four. But then in 2007, tragedy struck. Yes, we can say now tragedy struck because in the hindsight, we know that Mike Ashley wasn't as good. Now, why do we say that? He launched his 133 million takeover bid. He got the club, but then everything changed. Why do I say everything changed? Well, changed because the Newcastle fans actually accused him of selling the club's best players. Who remembers Johan Kabay? He was sold to PSG, but the money never invested. Alan Pardew, imagine, left for a smaller club like Crystal Palace. And who was asked to replace him? John Carver. Just think about that. And even the stadium's rights were sold. Like instead of being called St. James Park, it was called Sports Direct Arena, which itself, lost its soul with the fans. Unfortunately, like every club, even Mike Ashley lost his money in the pandemic. No stadium revenue, even though the fans were less, but there were still fans going in there. So everything bad that could have happened to the club, 2 relegations. Yes, who could have forgotten the 2 relegations as well? So no investments. The stadium lost its soul. The fans stopped coming in the way they used to. Everything just happened all during Mike Ashley's reign. So he was pretty much hated, and he was looking for a way to sell. So who tried to buy Newcastle club? Well, there were a few, believe it or not. Anil Ambani led Reliance Communications from India. Yes, the big magnates, the 6th largest group, richest man at that time, wanted to buy it. Singapore-based global investment company Profitable Group wanted to buy it. Even an American television executive called Henry Morris wanted to buy much more than these two that I mentioned before at 350 million. Obviously, the Saudi deal is supposed to be going at 400 million, but these were the suitors that existed, whether it was an American, whether it was Singapore, whether it was the Indian giants. But why did what made actually Saudis be so interested in buying them? There were many reasons why, and number of them was Jamal Khashoggi. Yes, he is no longer with us, but Saudi Arabia under MBS wanted to change its image. Since the turn of 21st century, the Gulf monarchies actually have poured lots of money. If you think about Manchester City, if you think about PSG, these are all owned by Gulf folks. Why? Because they thought of investing in sports as a positive way to show themselves, about changing the image. And that's what MBS has been doing as well since last few years, which is changing the image of Saudi Arabia, which has been a very traditional country, which has been known for its human rights problems. And what MBS has been trying to do is trying to change that image by opening up the cinemas, which were closed since 1979, holding the concerts, WWE events, heavyweight boxing, Spanish and Italian Super Cups. So he has been trying hard, and I think the last piece in the jigsaw for him was actually getting a hold of UK sports market, and that's where he identified Newcastle United, and that's where he's invested into Newcastle. So it really has been about the image change. Obviously it also gives you other benefits, like what? Big directors box seats. You can bring your business partners to the box seats. That's a privilege and glamour in itself. Global growth and appreciating asset. Like I said, a lot of sports partners have actually tried to buy various sports companies because it is considered to be a very appreciating asset. especially Premier League clubs, which have gained a lot of global relevance. In fact, they have been talking about playing in India, overseas as well, whether it's countries like India, America, China. They have been trying to expand their growth there. So what challenges did they face? Well, there were plenty of challenges which were faced by them. What were some of the challenges that this Saudi Arabia faced? One was the director's test. Now, director's test asks that A, the directors should be fit to own this particular club. And in this case, the company which is owning them itself is not that reputed. So along with that, think about the reputation that MBS has. And the biggest problem with that was the questions from the entire world. Will the West, whether it's UK or US, which talks so much about, being the ambassadors of good things, allow such a person who was involved in Jamal Khashoggi's alleged killing be allowed to do this? And then there was a role in the piracy. beIN Sports, who have all the rights to broadcast Premier League in Middle East, they had always complained about piracy in Saudi Arabia. And the other aspect was obviously the public investment fund, the PIF, which is actually the fund which is owned by MBS. But that was another big challenge, because Premier League wanted a very explicit written assurance. You should have a separation with the Premier League club Newcastle United. The club itself, its finances and the running of it by the MBS should be completely separated out. Directors should only be the ones responsible. So those were the kind of challenges. Now, obviously, one by one, everything got resolved. PIF has given a written assurance to Premier League that its directors will be the ones responsible. MBS in no way will be responsible in day-to-day running. Number one. Number two, the piracy issue between the beIN Sports and Saudi Arabia has been resolved now. So all of things basically made the way for this takeover to happen. Now, finally, let's think about what exactly will happen now. What exactly can the fans expect? Well, it's very important that the fans are put first. Clubs who have invested a lot of money have also failed, because there are 4 kinds of owners. And I'm sure you will be understanding that from where I'm coming from. There are owners who have no money, no community, no fan interest. Blackburn Rovers, Portsmouth, and of course Mike Ashley and Newcastle United, who have put lots of money but limited community or fan interest, like Manchester United, Arsenal. The fans have been begging for more engagement from its owners, but absolutely none. But they have put in the money. But where that money has been put in, God knows. And then limited money but lots of community interest, like Burnley, Watford, Tottenham, Leicester City. These are all clubs which have limited money, but they have lots of interest and they have invested well. And then you have clubs which have put in lots of money and lots of interest, like Chelsea, Manchester City. So which of these 4 owners will the PIF group, MBS group, we'll still call it the Saudi Arabia's MBS group, fall in? Do give us your feedback. Let us know. And if you like our presentation, please do subscribe. And also go to our website, EPL24x7, where you will get detailed bulleted points about this takeover. Thank you.